Hello students, welcome to the onlineඅක. Today our session under the regulatory compliance and legal frameworks, anti-money laundering, and then counterfighting of financing of terrorism and ACA. What is ACA? So after next 1 or 2 years you become a chartered accountant, right? Associate chartered accountant? No, not is that, right? This is about Anti-Corruption Act, right? So all 3 areas in detail, in depth, so we will discuss in this session. I want you to be patient, right? So a lot of knowledge you can acquire beyond the slide. So I already shared with the onlineআক team with the detailed note about the in a lot of areas which is covered, and the questions with the questions and mini questions and scenario based question and answers. You do attend questions there, right? All are to enhance your knowledge, right? So with before starting this session, so I would like to request you to the the kind request about this. I know you are now playing the different role in the organization. Say after next 2 or 3 years, after you are qualified as CA chartered accountant, so you may play different role in the organization. Like 4 C's, I explained about the introduction videos like a CFO, CIA like CRO, even a compliance officer, chief compliance officer, maybe you are CEO, COO, chief operating officer, board member. But in any circumstances, please don't think regulator is enemy. So that is my request you to. Regulator is not the enemy, right? But the regulator is always to be there to establish a best practice in the industry, different industry. I can explain about the even a non-banking finance sector. So if you look the 15 years, 10 years before regulation and today, number of regulations. Why is that? Why authority introduced those regulations? Even a non-banking finance sector example. So this is to protect the public deposit, right? In terms of the public interest. So they introduce, if there are number of failure, Sri Lanka, number of finance companies fail. So with that regulation, more regulations comes, right? For what the purpose? To protect the industry. That is one of the objective of the regulator, right? That is I want to tell you, don't think regulator is enemy, right? With that, shall we start this session? So this slide is one of the first introduction session. So the regulatory compliance and legal frameworks, and your subject 10% weightage. So now I already complete about this brief introduction about these 2 bodies, their role, and then oversight role about this, right, under this section. So now today, so this is the one institution, right? This is the Financial Intelligence Unit of Sri Lanka. So this is which is under command the AML and then terrorist finance, TF, terrorist finance, right? Terrorist financing. So we will discuss So you can understand our approach. So all the lessons we systematically link, right? So very first introduction session using the 5 slide, I give you a big picture of your subject, advanced risk management and corporate governance. Now we in depth going in the each areas, this 10%. Now in depth learning about the regulatory compliance and legal framework in Sri Lanka, and some are internationally best practice also. So we will discuss under this topic, right? Shall we move to the next slide? Sorry. Right. So this session roadmap, right? So is there you to get the understanding. So there are infographic features. So I presenting the other side in the presentation, you to easy to eye catch, right? So session roadmap. Session roadmaps, one, the compliance as a strategic risk. So one, and the corporate governance link, how to link this AML and then CFTs, anti-corruption acts, how it link to the corporate governance link, and then risk-based compliance approach. What is the risk-based compliance approach? The global AML and CFT frameworks. We will discuss about the how Sri Lanka is a connect with the global organizations. What is the organization? Then how their best practices apply in Sri Lanka, right? So because we working with the international organization, like now you know this Sri Lanka working with the IMF, like that kind of organizations. So they need more governance and regulatory structure approach in the country. So that is one of their key concern. So for that purpose also in future in Sri Lanka, these compliance may be more strengthened, right? So Sri Lankan AML and CFT laws, terrorist finance laws, and then this is called Financial Transaction Reporting Act, key provisions, governance responsibilities, and under this right under this, so which is this is financial intelligence unit established under this. So what is their role and then the powers, right? We will discuss about. Then customer due diligence framework, politically exposed persons. So normally we are customers we do customer due diligence, but in the PEP. So if you identify the person in the PEP, that means PEP's politically exposed persons, then beyond the customer due diligence, one words come, that is E. What is that? Enhance customer due diligence, right? With the risk, with the highest of the risks, right? STR regime, enforcement, AC Act, that Anti-Corruption Act, key provisions, governance implications. All these all areas we will discuss in the next slide in detail. Compliance as a strategic risk. Compliance is no longer only a legal requirement. So that is why you have to understand. So your subject, advanced risk management and corporate governance, right? Advanced risk management, one of the risk, strategic risk, operational risk, one is a compliance risk, that's the strategic level, right? So you have to manage it in the strategic level. So that is the strategic approach. So compliance is no longer only a legal requirement, it is a strategic governance mechanism. That is why strategic governance mechanism. when the compliance is failed, what could happen to your organization, right? So is there penalties, sanctions, reputational damage, market credibility loss, right? If the compliance is failures to announce to the general publics, to media and all, so market credibility loss, right? Confidence of the investors may lose, the decline, right? So director liabilities. So that is why compliance failures, so it's one of the in a negative way impact to your organizations. Key concept in this compliance, you can see you compliance equal risk, governance, responsibility, right? The one of the board level, tone at the top, your organizations. So have good attitude about the tone, about this compliance. That's I told in previous slide explaining, regulator is not the enemy, right? Compliance is to you to run the sustainable way in the business, right? It's to how you manage in the compliance, which will impact, right? Some organization I know this, the shorter period, very high numbers, increase profit, asset base, with the 1 or 2 years, even a company you can't find, disappear, right? What is happening? So that is why, that is the way, so you do sustainability, right? Sustainable, now we are talking about the word, right? S1, S2, talking about sustainability, right? You have to run the business in the sustainable way. So compliance, how you manage the compliance, compliance risk management is critical. Compliance failure equal to governance failure, right? So I can explain with this in the practical, explain practical scenario in the, if you know that in the finance sector, non-banking finance sector, if just I touch in this previous slide explaining, so in the on-site visit of the authority, so they found the compliance failed, it's unsatisfactory. So what say, final disaster level, can they say board is failed, right? If your compliance fail, so that ultimate responsibility given to board, governing body, that 3 line of defense in the top, I explained in the introduction video also, governance bodies, the governance failure. So that is how is the expectation, right? So weak compliance shows the weak governance. Real outcomes, what is the compliance fail, what could happen to the organization, financial loss, penalties, there are million amount of monies you have to pay to regulator. And then license restrictions, right? So if you can see, if you read newspaper and all, you know, one of the finance company in the recently get some, they have some like central bank, if there are some non-compliance, they restricted, right? Within the operational restriction provided, right? Sometimes say you can't take the public deposit, like kind of they go to that level restriction until what is the disaster level can go organization, finance company, license cancel. So that level can go, so you are not comply with the regulation, rules and regulations. So that is license restriction, then criminal exposure, investor distrust, because confidence of the investors may decline, right? Strategic message, what is compliance must be embedded to the ERM and fast culture. So that is one of the keyword you have to remind, right? So this we forget about this, we erase this. It's very. So what is this? So ERM, right? Culture, that is the most important in the organization. Compliance must be embedded to the ERM, enterprise risk management. That is earlier explained about this. The operational strategic risk, operational risk, compliance risk. The financial risk also there. So that is the why. The culture organization, compliance is not to tick the boxes. Normally it's just normal sometimes in the culture. Just to requirement of the regulatory, they do no, not that. Even a culture, it should be part of the culture. Even you are onboarding the employee, right? So at that time, how you express the culture to the employee? You sign the NDA, like different agreement with the employee. So that is how in the employer recruiting time until to the resign to the organization, right? How it's part of the embedded to these compliance requirement. It is not just merely tick the boxes, right? So compliance is not like that. Right. Next slide. It is about the regulated compliance with corporate governance. 3 pillars, right? In the organization, board level, senior management, compliance function. The board is the ultimate responsibility for the compliance, right? If there are organizations, so compliance is failed, this means board failed. No other reasons, right? Board failed. So that is the board is ultimate responsibility. There's a tone at the top that culture start to have to build up in the organization. They are the one who ultimately, they are the one who approving policy procedure in the organization. So that is one of the responsibility. The board of directors, right? Board is ultimate responsibility. The senior management, the implementations and resources. Right? So that board approved policy procedures implemented by the senior management in the organization and the resources. So compliance function, monitoring and reporting. Even a compliance function as a compliance officer like finance, bank, insurance, the most of the even a highly regulated organization, there are separate positions under second line of defense. Compliance officer, chief compliance officer, compliance manager, like compliance officer role. So they are the one who functioning, monitoring and then compliance function, then internal audit. What is internal auditor role of this in part of the compliance? As a third line defense, internal auditor can assess the effectiveness of the compliance officer function, right? Effectiveness of compliance risk management, the compliance officer. And internal auditor can report into the board audit committee. Effectiveness of your organization's compliance risk management. The strategic governance requires, so that one, the oversight, accountability, monitoring. So oversight role there, accountability, the board, management, accountability, and then the monitoring. If all three is well balanced in the organization, so your organization needs the can say lower risk of the as a compliance risk perspective, and categorizing lower risk, right? If you have effective function, right? Not just a document placing here and there boxes, someone so visit is their document, like not like that, right? Practically. So your organization run in the well managing in the compliance, so is the all three, so the effective role play in the organization, any organization, right? With that, move into the next slide. Risk-based approach. Why it matters? What is the risk-based approach? So risk. What is the higher risk, the lower risk, and then medium risk. So have compliance risk management. What is all the compliance you can place in the box under different places. So with the highest, that's the risk based approach, right? The highest level to the lower. So then, the top board and management can give prioritize according with that risk based approach. The prioritize your compliance risk. Risk based approach equal to control depend on the risk level. That is what I explained. The focus on the high risk customers, products, transactions, efficient use of resources, demonstrate the regulatory maturity. So that is why regulator maturity. What is the strategic benefits? If your risk based approach apply, the reduce exposure, build regulation confidence, right? So if your risk based approach apply, so you know what is the higher risk, then the lower risk, medium risk, what are the actions, right, remedial actions. So with that, so reduce your exposure, right? That is why I need risk based approach. Shall we move to the next slide? Right. Now we come to this is our topic in this. The previous slide I generally explained about the risk management, and then what is compliant risk management and what benefit, what are the risks and all. Now it's here onwards we talk about the AML, the anti-money laundering, the terrorist financing, and then Anti-Corruption Act, right? With that first start before then AML reporting. So I took this picture, right? So here infographic here providing you to get the understanding about what is the money laundering, right? Laundering, the money laundering is, what laundering? If you go to your clothes is you go into laundry, so that is dirty things you have to clean to use the laundry, right? Forget about the money word, right? Dirty to clean. So there is the same scenario, right? Dirty cash, clean money. So there is a process, right? That's called placement, layering, integrations. There are structure, right? That's how world happening. So very smart people today, different technology, digital currencies with the digital world we are living. So now very smart way the people handling these things happening in the world, right? So money laundering, so this is a key step with the examples, right? So placement, I told this placements. How is placement happen? Entry to the dirty money. So your dirty money is to the placement first. Where to place? Cash deposits, casino, business, right? By bank drafts, that is how place. Example, if you are to 200 deposit daily. So then layerings, hide the money trail. That is how happening layering. So you have one place deposit, then you taken that money to different way, right? Multiple transfers, and then a shell company, some world there are country tax haven. So you can start the company with the PO box, right? No one is there, but that the PO box, like kind of organization who can transfer the money, you can transfer the money. Now digital currency, but we need like this. These are very technologically and these are need cryptocurrency, but that other side of anti-money laundering perspective, very high risk, because in the global level regulatory strength is not that much. So with that, this cryptocurrency is one of the instruments you can use as a layering in the dirty money. The fake invoice, then funds sent abroad as a consultancy fee. That's why example is explained here. So you can send like that. So that is how happening in the layering. So multiple approach you using your dirty money deposit there, then you multiple transfer, if you are transfer shell company, or you buy cryptocurrency, right, like that. Then integration, how is happening the integration? integration. So now you are layering, hide the trail, the layering. So then you buy the, from that money to buy the properties, car, real estate, right? Invest in the business. Sometimes loan payments. Example, loan the money, buy a luxury home. So it's like that's why very strategically approach the people who are doing this. They are very smartly handling this, the way of they are doing this placement, layering and integrations, right? That is the way how the world happening in the money laundering. Just a small example, just I explained. So with the globalization and the technological innovations and all, there are more opportunities come. There are more doors open to the people too. So that is why in this is one of the global and even a local very hot topics, right? Just another word I forget to tell you, but this is a highly examinable area, right? Anti-money laundering, counter the terrorist finance and all. For 10% your syllabus under regulatory and legal framework, definitely this area examinable test, because even I know recently cie Sri Lanka also with the central bank official, so conduct session about this anti-money laundering, terrorist financing and all, to awareness of their members. So understanding is if you are learning this area, so you will help you to working as your corporate world. So will help this knowledge you to. So I think this just I briefly explained. So I hope you have about understanding about this, how money laundering with the key steps, 3 stage, with the dirty cash is converted to the clean money with placement and layering and integration. The 3 stages passing the money, so to clean the money, right? So then another one, terrorism financing. What is the terrorism finance? Terrorism finance, you can see here, the first one, raise the funds, obtaining money. How to obtain the money? Charities, NGOs, criminal activities, state sponsors, sometimes it could happen, right? Example, NGO collect the donations. So then transfer fund, sending the money. There are different approach. Hawala system, crypto, that is how crypto is one of the digital currency. The AML, terrorism financing is one of the tool. This people may use, because with the globally expanding this global currency, so this with highly vulnerable, we can say, to the point of in the cryptocurrency, that high risk, that easy to use this terrorist finance, right? Then banks, right, fund secretary transfer. The NGO collect the donation, right? Don't NGO misunderstand all, right? That is non-government organization mean don't think, right? All, because in Sri Lanka some children foods giving, a lot of society activities are doing, right? Don't sometimes that is Sri Lanka is misunderstanding in this word. If we have NGO, so they think something is always they are doing bad to nation, no country like this, some attitude. Don't forget, because this example of some case, in a few cases happen, but majority of NGOs, so they giving service to the society, right? Not limit to their countries, the world, right? So don't misunderstand this word NGO. Then how it's happening, this transfer fund, using the funds, financing terrorism. So they buy weapons, bombs, and then safe houses, training camps to build. If you apply to any terrorist team in the world, so how it's happening, they funding, receiving like different sources, and So they to continue their terrorism activities. So weapons, buy the weapons, bombs, safe houses build up, and then training camps. So they use this money. So that's how raise fund transfer and for use for terrorism. So that is called terrorism financing. Shall we move to the next slide? Right. Okay. Now we in the risk-based approach, key step. What are the risk-based approach key steps? Identify inherent money laundering, terrorist finance risks. That identification is one of the key steps first. Then assess the risk. First identify risk, assess the risk. Customer types, that is I say, customer, we say PEPs, politically exposed persons, that's why you are customer due diligence, beyond that, enhance customer due diligence, right, enhance. Geographically, some areas, some countries, even those countries are high risk, right. So with that, you have to assess with the risk, products, service, delivery channels. So then apply proportionate controls, how to apply the control. So these things how to you to tackle, you to how to monitor, then and there identify these transactions. You should have systematic approach. So then continuous monitoring and reviews, that is why it's continuous monitoring and reviews. If you know some bank, in the international bank, I won't tell the name, so they have separate department to the money laundering and financial crimes department, they say, right. So they have team to their day-to-day transaction tracking, the system-wise first red flags given, after that come to their teams, they go in detail and review these transactions. So how it's world happening like that. So and then they did in detail investigation about that transactions, because sometimes some in the one organization brand name also impacts. If you are some exposed to this bank, this kind of persons using these money laundering and all, the exposure to the public, so which bank reputation also impact. So that is why it's critical to the follow the managing the AML and terrorist finance risk, continuous monitoring and reviews. Shall we move to the next slide? So global AML and CFT frameworks, that I always, that several times mentioned about that global connect, right, not only this, even accounting is standard, auditing is standard, right, always we are connected to the world, right. Now in this area AML, CFT also globally we connected, right. The global standards are mainly guided by Financial Action Task Force recommendations, the UN conventions, international cooperation principles. So what is their purpose? Why this global institution purpose? What is the purpose? Prevent abuse of the financial system, right, and also ensure the integrity of the financial system, right, and then detect and disrupt the illegal finance. That is one of the key purposes of this global standard set in the global institutions. This is one of the key institution in the global, right. So why global compliance is critical? So non-compliance may result in less of correspondent banking relationship, right. If you are non-compliance, the relationship with the bank will impact. So difficulty in the foreign transactions, high cost of capital, global reputational damage, the reputational damage to impact the non-compliance. AML, the key points to you have to learn here. AML compliance protects national and corporate creditabilities. That is one of the important, right? Protect national and corporate creditability in the overall, establish the issue of the international, right, integrity of the financial system. If you are all together, all countries together follow these best practices, then ultimately ensure the international integrity of the financial system. So here also explain this about this. So before moving to the Sri Lankan context, international, so this previous slide I explained about this, the Financial Action Task Force, right? This is one of the global institution, right, body to the issue the guideline about this anti-money laundering and terrorist finance. So I will share the video. So I would kindly invite you to watch this video. So hope you watch this video and you get the understanding about the how global organization, right? This Financial Action Task Force, how to work with, prevent anti-money laundering and terrorist finance, right? Ensure the integrity of the finance sector, right? Financial system. So with that, shall we move to the this also I explained in previous this slide. So now we come to the Sri Lanka, right? Now is global to now in Sri Lanka, anti-money laundering, terrorist finance, legal frameworks, right? So these are the applicable regulations under the anti-money laundering and the terrorist financing. So under the Terrorist Finance Act number 25 of 2005 and the Prevention of Money Laundering Act and then the Financial Transaction Reporting Act, those three acts play the key role, critical role to ensure the combat against the anti-money launderings and then terrorist finance in the Sri Lanka to ensure the integrity of the financial system. Right. So with that, shall we move to the next slide? Now, Financial Transaction Reporting Act is operational of the AML and CFT law. Focus preventions. What they focus? Prevention, detection, and reporting. Prevention actions like to instruction to the organization like customer due diligence, enhanced due diligence likewise, and detections. So effective monitoring system to the controlling system to the organization itself to detect and reporting. So reporting, so even under this institution there is a called 𝗀𝗡𝗃, right, system to the financial institution to the reports shared with this FIU, right, kind of a reporting mechanism. So you prevent, if you persist prevent, the prevention is better than detection. Prevent plus you drive the organization to preventing culture, right, but it's still there, you have to detect. So then if you are detection, you are reporting to the authority. Institution lead the compliance, FIU oversight and enforcement. So that is one of the focus on this Financial Transaction Reporting Act. And the strategic shifts from policy into governance based compliance. Governance based compliance, that is why, not the policy implementing, just beyond that, governance based compliance, right. So here also just to show you to how this financial transaction reporting overviews, you to get the understanding, right. So shall we move to the next slide? Objective of the Financial Transaction Reporting Act. So establish the FIU, that is I call FIU financial, that our first picture. There are multiple regulated bodies, right, there are central bank likewise, cie Sri Lanka, and then /MB likewise there are, but that is one of the entity we call the, I think, top second financial is, that is one of the FIU, Financial Intelligence Unit, right, that is national center. Mandatory customer identification, you have to identify the customer. Then monitoring of the transactions, customer identification means customer is identified. You have, before entering the transaction with the customer, so you have to understand, you have to identify the customer risk profile. Then have to in-house system to rating this system, your customer. So that's one of the way how they embedded this to the organization. The reporting suspicious activities, strength transparency, support local and international AML CFT operations, right. But I really shared video, the global body, so they are best practices. So throughout this FIU, implement in Sri Lanka. So that is one of the objective of this. That is also one of the objective, right. Shall we next slide? Scope of the Financial Transaction Reporting Act. Financial Transaction Reporting Act apply to financial institution. Don't think this is a only finance, only bank, right? Beyond the bank, beyond the financial institution. Financial institution like bank, finance company like the insurance company, stockbrokers, money changers, money service providers, and designated, that is one of the other critical words, designated non-financial business and professions, right. So this is, you also cover this if you become this profession, right. Designations, non-financial business and professions. What are these? Designation, non-financial business and professions. Accountants, auditors, there is a role, right? Accountant, so auditors, casinos, real estate dealers, and then lawyers, dealers in precious metal and stones, because some stones very high value, right? So there someone can use that money to purchase these assets. So for that point of view, if you have working in this organization, so your organization there is a role to identify and assess risks. As a professional member of this, if the lawyer or accountant, even auditor, so you also have role in terms of the AML and terrorist finance. So that is one of the key points. Money laundering and terrorist finance risks exist beyond the banking sector. That is this slide whole expectation, because sometimes things financial transaction reporting, people know some level transaction beyond, there are certain threshold level beyond that reporting to the authorities, no beyond that, right? So it's not only the financial institution. So it's shifted to the non-financial business also and professions. Right. Shall we move to the next slide? So now explain about the finance business covered, right? Finance business example, licensed commercial bank and the specialized banks, finance leasing companies, stockbrokers, capital market intermediaries, insurance companies, then money changers, money service providers. So this, because that in previous slide I explained about the money laundering, how it's happening in the real world. So with that, the risk exposure, maybe placement, layering, integration. So there are possibilities to use these financial institutions for the dirty money to convert to the clean cash or money, right? So this process use the people who use in these institutions, right? Then this. So shall we move to the next slide? This is another designation, non-financing business person and persons, right? Professions covered: lawyers, certainly financial transaction, accountants, auditors, right? Casinos, gambling houses, real estate dealers, dealers in precious and metal and stones, strategic significant asset-based laundering and concealment, right? So that is why here also you can, the previous slide explained one, to beyond the financial institutions, this AML and terrorist finance areas covered. Not limited to finance institutions, a bank or finance company, beyond that. Though there are high risk areas, so that is why this designation non-finance areas covered, so that uncovered area out of the bank and finance they need to cover. So sometimes in future more areas will add. With the new technologies, they are in the digital currencies, that so more will add. Shall we move to the next slide? Key obligation under the Financial Transaction Act, core requirements. So if you are like that previous, I explained one of the company, so they need like bank, finance, insurance company, so they need appoint the compliance officer. So to handle these compliance requirement, he or she is the one responsibility as second line position to ensure the compliance in terms of this act requirements, conduct customer due diligence, ongoing monitoring, so then beyond sometime customer due diligence, if you are saying like finance company, bank, PEPs, the political exposure person, so you go beyond that customer due, the enhanced customer due diligence, right, with the high risk considering of the PEPs. The maintain records, submit reports including cash transaction report, CTR we call CTR, and the electronic fund transfer report EFT, then CTR and EFT for transaction exceeding 1 million. So you have report to regulator, right? So then suspicious transaction report, which is no minimal amount, right? That's all. Sometimes small amount, like we say some accounts, it's inactive a long period, but suddenly there are number of transactions, right? So then that is how suspicious transaction, right? Like some, it's not like amount like threshold, below the threshold, right? But number of transactions. So that is why your organization effective systematic way system control should be placed to identify to these transactions. So and then other, so internal control and training program. So that is one of the requirement, because awareness, it is all about compliance. So awareness is one of the key part, because people you should have to aware. So that is why this under Sri Lanka, this subject new syllabus, this advanced risk management and corporate governance, even this section in deeply, I discuss what is the purpose. So awareness of you. I know you are maybe next 1 to 2 years, one of the organization key role play. So your understanding of this, one of the, so it's benefit to not to the company as well as society, right? So that is one of the purpose. Even my note, this related this detailed note with the examples, right? Question, practical questions and some question mini case with the answers. So I prepared even a sleepless night use to develop, because this is one of our responsibility, right? Awareness is more important to prevent, right? Prevention is better than detection. So even organization also same, the training programs need to aware all the employees, even a joining date to throughout the year. So organization training plan must include related to these several sessions. So with that we will move to the next slide. Governance and accountability under the FTRA. Compliance is board level responsibility. I think this several time explained about this, right? Board is compliance, board level responsibility. Tone at the top, right? Play the key role. Senior management is account for implementations. They are the one who board approve the policy procedures. Then senior management is accountable for implementing the board approved policy procedures. So non-compliance lead to fines, directions, license restrictions, personal liability, right? So and then strategic view. What is strategic view? FTAR is governance, risk control frameworks, governance and risk and control frameworks. If you have good governance structure and the risk and control frameworks to embedded where the managing of this risk, it is a part of your ERM framework. Shall we move to the next slide? Strategic implication of the FTR. So it's not merely reporting law. So that is one of thing you should have to understand. This is not merely reporting law. The integrated compliance, ethics, risk management, governance responsibility. You can think how Sri Lanka this subject, advanced risk management and corporate governance link, right? This your subject no any compliance regulatory, but this if you are learning this subject in the compliance, how is linked to your subject? It's called advanced risk management, corporate governance, right? Corporate governance failure. If you are risk fail, the tone at the top fail. So if the risk management fail, ultimately organization also fail, right? So that is disaster level. The lessons in Sri Lanka. So in a finance company, very first session, introduction session, corporate governance, right? I show you one of the organizations Sri Lanka, right? One of that is so what went wrong then? So that is the reasons. Compliance means then poor governance, then poor risk management, end of day. So company failed, collapse. Another history going to another entity to collapse. But in the series of the public deposit taking company and public interest, so impact. So multiple stakeholders, not like private small organization collapse, one or two people, right? But in the finance sector, there are multiple stakeholders, right? Number of people to impact. So that is the serious, critical of this. So it is that the box ticking approach to systematic exposure, right? Now transfer to the systematic exposure. So not like that I previous slide also explained, the compliance is not like a box ticking, right? So organization have systematic exposed and systematic approach to manage your organization compliance risk. It is all compliance, it is part of the AML and terrorist finance also. So you can come back money laundering, terrorist finance, and strengthen financial integrity, enhance regulator compliance, improve global standing. So that is ultimately expectation. Shall we to the next slide? Role and power of the FIU, Financial Intelligence Unit, is the central AML and Terrorist Finance Intelligence Agency, right? Receive report. I explained about this report, suspicious transaction, then a CTR, cash transfer, electronic fund transfers and all. There are threshold over 1 million reports, finance institutions, then what I explained about the finance and the non-finance, both category have to report. When I can share with the example, if you read newspaper, you may aware, the recently, even 1 month ago, the Sri Lanka, one of the bank, 2 finance company, 1 jewelry company, another casino. So that FIU impose the penalties, million amount, right? Few transaction not reporting to authority, the administrative penalties. So they impose. Then that news go into the newspaper article, right? So it's then, their reputational risk, their damage organizations. It happened. So then also the very high amount, right? Few transaction, even that I drive to 3-4 sometimes the million amount have to pay that organizations. That is how critical in the organization in terms of the financial loss, then reputational risk, reputational damage perspective. So manage this is how it's critical to the organization. And then analyze and disseminate the intelligence, and then coordinate with the law enforcement and regulators. Power, what are the power? The request informations, then the designation and the financial designation, non-financial institution and financial institution request the information. Suspend transactions, issue rules and guidelines, impose penalties. If you can, please go to this FIU website. I think my tutorial, the website link. So lot of regulation issues, there are news you can read for you to in advance you won't learn, get understanding about. Please, if you have leisure time, please go to this website, you can learn more. How they work with the international organizations, what their objective, in next 2 to 5 years they have a plan. Likewise, so then next slide, compliance function. Compliance function, governance responsibilities. For effective compliance, clear structure and independence. Reporting line to the senior management. Compliance function also now the finance sector called independent functions. Compliance officer is one of the independent persons because the that the company management and all work with the regulator with birth. So, this reports sent to the regulator by the compliance officer. So, which is also independent role now in the organization, which means the bank finance. Reporting line to senior management, board, BIRMCs, board integrated risk management committee. So, the member of the compliance officer. Integrated policies, monitoring, escalations, right? Whatever the regulatory announcements in the organizations circulated by the compliance officer to their staff. So, manage, that's a message. What is the message? AML CFT compliance equal to the governance systems. So, this is a, here also same explained in different way. The compliance function, governance responsibility, set the enforce the AML policy procedures. So, annually or whatever timely have to review and so amend the policies in line with the regulator announcements, guideline announcements, and oversee the compliance program, appoint the compliance officer, and report to the board of directors. Role of the board of directors, right? Board. If you are any place, we talk about the boards, we talk about tone of the organization, right? Not the board. Board equal to tone of the organizations. That is why. Board responsibility, set the tone at the top. That is the responsibility of the board. Tone at the top, approving policy procedures, one of the key role in the board. Responsibility, approving review on the AML policies, right? Define the AML terrorist finance risk appetite, right? Your risk appetite statement, which is approved by the board. So, your organizations, all the risk related terminology, then you are what risk you are going to bear, the amounts and all are there, right? That document also part of this, how you managing this AML and this terrorist finance risk. Ensure the independent compliance functions, right? That is one of the responsibility, role of the board. Monitor STR trend and the breach, emerging risks, right? Like emerging risks. So, ensure the strong internal controls, that is one of the board. Internal control, sound internal control system are placed in the organization. It is critical to prevent anti-money laundering and terrorist finance. So, fight against the money laundering, right? Fight against the money laundering. So, terrorist finance, one of the key to establish the strong internal controls. Shall we move to the next slide? So, now role of the senior management. What is the role of the senior management? Senior management role. Senior management must translate the board policy into the operations, right? Sometimes board may approve document, number of documents, policy procedure, but how it's operate, ground level. People, how aware about this? Are you properly communicate to the ground level? It is one of the critical. If you are a finance company, the board approved, right? Maybe head office and boardroom in Colombo, but you have multiple branches in like island wide. So then how the branches, staff, managers and staff aware about that? So that is one of critical, right? To properly communicate, awareness of them. That is one of the management, senior management responsibility. And allocate resources and staff, the compliance department to allocate the staff and then empowering them so that some management can offer to their training and development program, especially IBSL conducting the session about this AML, terrorist finance, and also then you are staff to give chance to them to programs, join them, and you providing them to the financial support to this program, right? So that is one of the way how resources and in the capacity build up your existing staff. integrates AML CFT into the strategy, organization strategy. And then ensure training and awareness, that is I already explained about this, support compliance independence. So shall we move to the next slide? Role of compliance officer and 3 line of model. 3 line of defense discussed in the first introduction video. So that the first line management and second line compliance officer, chief risk officer, third line chief internal audit function, and also external audit function also on third line, but is outside of the organization, but other all are within the organization, right? So compliance officer, so implement customer due diligence, enhance due diligence and transaction monitoring, reporting to the FIU. So that is one of the responsibilities of the compliance officer. Record keeping, whatever the statutory regulators say, this much of years you have to maintain the record. So that recording, keeping responsibilities under compliance officer. You have to custody, which document should maintain, and training and internal controls. Training awareness to the even a senior management and the staff to have to conduct by the compliance officer. This then apply to the 3 line of defense model business unit. So then business unit, they are the one who the first line of defense, right? Department heads, some branch managers. So they should have to follow these regulation and rules, right? Whatever in line with the compliance and regulator framework in part of the AML and terrorist finance. Compliance officer have to manage the compliance officer is the risk. Risk dashboard reporting structure with the in part of this AML and CFT, and then reporting to the authority FIU, and then awareness and all. And the third line, internal auditors, this is the department who can review independently to the effectiveness of the compliance risk management in part of the AML and CFT. Can challenge to the risk department, right, risk officers, that with your findings, the effectiveness of the risk management in term of the in part of the AML and CFT. So you can bringing reports to the audit committee, right? You can highlighting the management to these areas you are not effectively follow, and regulation guideline not effectively applied, right? Now the few auditor can independently conduct audit in part of the over 1 million transactions. They can do separate, and then they can find they select the period like 1 month or 2 months. They independently do this. Identify how many transactions in the organization like finance company, and then ask the compliance officer, please share with your report, you share it in the FIU, then you can compare what is compliance officer share and what is you are working with the 2 month or 1 month. So then there are discrepancies, so mismatch, that means so properly not handled by the function in the compliance officer, right? So that is how auditor, internal auditor check the effectiveness of the compliance in terms of the AML, CFT, right? Just one example. There are more ways to internal auditors. Then you can check the regulator guidelines recent issue like central bank FIU. So then how this organization to the apply, even branch level, how the branch level even reviewing the credit files, even accepting deposits, and how they identify the customer due diligence, enhanced due diligence, how it's happening. So those areas, internal audit functions, annual risk-based internal audit programs, they include under the compliance risk. So shall we move to the next slide? This is the customer due diligence and PEP frameworks. That's called political exposures, right? So that PEPs, then CDD, customer identified and verified customer, assess money laundering terrorist finance risk profile, ongoing monitoring. So, enhance customer due diligence for high risk clients, that is one of the high risk clients. 𝗶𝗶s, political exposures, persons mean high risk. So, not the customer due diligence, beyond that, enhance customer due diligence, right? Something beyond the, you have to do something to go in detail and investigate about these persons, because high risk in terms of the 𝗶𝗶s. So, prominent public, that the 𝗶𝗶s, you can 𝗶𝗶s, political exposures, persons defined like prominent public functions, the high corruption exposure, the require, that is by require the risk based identification, senior management approval with the transaction with the 𝗶𝗶s, senior management, your organization risk management policies. So, the one of the clauses, how to deal with these 𝗶𝗶s, right, how they assess risk and then how to work with them, then senior management approval with the some value of the transaction. Beyond that, ultimately can go to the board level. So, this then establish sources of wealth and funds, enhance monitoring. So, monitoring function should have to enhance. So, this is right. Shall we move to the next slide? STR regime and enforcement, right. Mandated reporting to FIU, that is one of the requirement, capture the unusual patterns, support the national intelligence and enforcement, sanctions, fines, directives, criminal prosecutions, personal liability for officers and directors. That is why personal liability, right. I can explain that if you are working in the finance company, it's a bank also. With my experience finance, I can say non-banking finance sector, bank also same. I hope if there is a call KRP in the organization, key responsible persons, right. So, those positions with the board and other level, sometimes AGM level and above. So, their appointment, your organization can't appoint, right. First, we have to get the clearance from the central bank. Central bank should give the fit and proper clearance. With that, the responsibility is criminal responsibility, right. That is why, how critical, why you have to know about this after you, this say like you now next 1 or 2 years you qualified, you will take a seat in the finance company, CFO, CIA, right. So, you are understanding your knowledge, so you know critical to you, right, your professional life, right. So, that is why something learned beyond this, I also provided what I can do maximum, even this slide beyond that note in detail, some reference website also I provide the note. Please go and learn and be updated, because this knowledge will help in your professional life, right. Shall we move to the next slide? Right, now is completed about the two areas about the, especially brief explain about the compliance risk, then come to the anti-money launderings and then terrorist finance. With that, local context, global, what are the institutions, and then how organization level, what is the role of the board, 3 line of defense. So, we apply their responsibilities and compliance officer role and responsibility discuss, right, with that. So, a lot of knowledge you acquire, right, with that my note. There are questions I expect you to attend, right, some questions with the answers, you can read and get the understanding, some questions for you to attend. With this knowledge, I need you to build up, right, in first session I explained, build up your thinking capacity and ability, right. So, that is expectations. So, with that knowledge, I think what I shared related to AML and terrorist finance, so will help you tackle that examiner questions, right, 5 marks or whatever there. So, you can easy, but beyond the exam always this subject not to pass the 50 marks, beyond your knowledge is you to be a staff the boardroom as a trusted, strategic and trusted advisor to the board. that knowledge will help you. Right. With that, now we move to the next session. This is come to Anti-Corruption Act. Right. This also just few areas I'll extracted from there. Right. So you to get the understanding, and so it's need your knowledge about this Anti-Corruption Act. So key point of the corporate governance and compliance perspective that certified by the Parliament this 2023, and then aligned with UN Convention Against Corruption. So apply to public, private sector, bribery and corruption risk, right? Don't think public sector, right? Private sector also, because public sector always work with the private sector, right? If you say like public, the government need to construct the road. So road construction project given to the private sector company. You know, this is the top Sri Lankan construction company, right? Given to them size. So that is why I need private link. Because that possibility of there is, if you have some contracts that awards given to someone else, right? With this, you know, they are gain the advantage from, right? Give, so whatever the benefits, right? That is why this is a link with the public with the private, not only public, right? So shall we move to the next slide? Background and legal context. Replace this Anti-Corruption Act, and also I need to mention, right? So with the starting of this session, my note, there is a link, 𝗙𝗲𝗃 link. You have to go to that link to the web, 𝗙𝗃𝗃 web, and one of the senior lawyer, right, Professor Mr. 𝗘𝘅𝗺𝗃 in the this, right, I think. So in the about this subject, right, corruption, the corporate criminal liability and areas, in very good articles. Link is there, please go to that website and read. There are a lot of learnings is there, right? So you do enhance your knowledge, because we have to respect this lawyer, because they are they publish this article in the prominent newspaper to awareness of the general publics, right? So that is why our teaching, not only the pass your exam, that is one part of the enhance your knowledge, because you are end of the day you working in the corporate entity, right? So you bring this knowledge there. So that is all are connected the work, right, to again fight against the corruption, anti-money laundering, terrorist finance, right? So that is important. So we have to thank this kind of professionals to their awareness of the society, awareness to publishing article. So please go that note, there is a link. So go to that website and 𝗙𝗃𝗃, that article, please read if you have leisure time, right? So that's so then background and legal context. Replace the earlier legal framework and instant enforcement. So this act, Anti-Corruption Act, replaced then the previous laws, right? Bribery Act, cie HEPOC Act. That Commission of Investigation, right? That is called. That is this name called Commission of right. Now we will look the background and legal content. So replace the earlier legal framework and strengthen the enforcement. Repeal, right? Bribery Act, replace the Bribery Act, cie HEPOC Act, Declaration of Assets and Liability Law, right? Strengthen the prevention, investigation and prosecution mechanisms, right? That is one of the objective. Strength, prevention, investigation and prosecution mechanisms, right? So shall we move to the next slide? Objective of the ACA, that ACA means don't misunderstand, this is Anti-Corruption Act, right? So this Anti-Corruption Act objective prevent, detect, punish bribery and corruption, public and private sectors. That is one of the key objective, right? Preventive, and detect and punish bribery and corruption. So you know these days there are number of peoples, right? To the go to the that CIA book, that bribery commission, right? Bribery commission, we say just bribery commission, and though there are statements, right? Sometimes they to the actions right there on sale. So promote transparency, accountability and integrity is a governance and business. That is why promote. That is one of the objective. Promote transparency, accountability and integrity in the governance and business. That is why there are awareness sessions, conducting awareness session national wide, the using different media to promote, right? To promote transparency, accountability and integrity in the governance and business, to place. Support ethical business practices and good corporate governance. So create strong deterrence through penalties and corporate liability. That is why detective. When detect, so that is penalties, corporate liabilities. That is one of the two factors. If there are strong deterrence through a penalty and corporate liabilities. So those are the objective of Anti-Corruption Act, right? Scope and applicabilities, right? Who is covered? Who is covered? That is, I think you should know, right? Who is covered? Public officials, right? That's called ministers, member of parliaments, government employees, regulators, procurement officers. That's the high risk, right? Procurement officers, you know, they are a lot of one of the high risk category, right? Private sector, directors, managers, agents, contractors, consultants, right? All the public and private both, right? Don't think the corruption to the government, not government, right? The public or private also, because the public work with the private, right? So that is I explained that if you are like say, if you are in the after next 1 or 2 years, if you qualified, I don't know, at the moment or someone maybe CFO in the construction company, right? Construction company, practically I will explain how it's happening. Construction company, so they are, you are in the boardroom, right? So there are some management discussion, no. So some other can say we have the revenue target. To revenue target this contract we need very potential, but for the getting for this contract, so we have some kind of, right, so approach to do. So then how CFO, your voice is more important as a strategic and trusted advisor to the board, right? Ethically how your advice is most critical to the organization. Then in prevent future financial losses, reputational damage, right? So that's why. What conduct is covered? What conduct is covered? Offering, so that is why offering, giving, receiving, asking undue advantage, cash or non-cash. So offering, giving, receiving, asking undue advantage, cash or non-cash. Cash, sometimes not cash, right? Improper influence over decisions, approvals, license, procurement, tenders. I think these words, if you can read, your minds come, right? Several lessons Sri Lanka, right? Some newspaper article publishing, right? This person belonged to this politician party, right? So got this contracts, right? With this, like so many stories. Not only Sri Lanka, right? There are all some countries like this. That is why these kind of regulation acts so need to prevent or fight again this corruption. It's a need, right? Shall we move to the next slide? key definitions, right? So corruption is, what is the key definition? One first, corruption. Corruption in abuse of entrusted power for personal gain or undue advantage. That is why you have power, right? Say like politician, the people give you power, but people not give you the power, so misuse or do the corruption, right? So that is why corruption. So that power you have to use. So even betterment for the, even you work in the organization to your betterment for your organization as a public person, so betterment for the country. So that is the expectation. But abuse of interest, power, personal gain. So that is how its corruption is happen. Bribery, giving, receiving, requesting a benefit to influence the decisions, right? Sometimes you know this story I don't specifically mention, right? If you listen, then radio and there watch news and all, read newspapers, this very well right, how it's happening. And gratifications, right, benefit, cash or non-cash, gift, favor, service, job or discounts, different way, very broad level. Conflict of interest, personal interest, interference with duty, create bias. Conflict of interest, you are in the positions, right? Sometimes you can influence to the decisions, right? So that is how it's happening. So I want to mention then some landmark case, Sri Lanka, right? Big scam or whatever things, right? You can your memories come, right? How interference, conflict of interest impact. If you are in some board positions, right? Hierarchy, government positions, so there may be high chance to create that conflict of interest, your personal interference with the duty and create the bias situations. Illicit enrichment, right? Asset beyond the lawful income without explanations. You earn money, you can't explain how to earn the money. So whistleblower, informant. So person reporting the corruption in good faith, that is one of the whistleblowing. So we have to awareness about the country level, even organization level. The whistleblowing is a key player, one of the key part of the organization culture. People have even organization or country, so person have to, something confidence to someone I disclose, right? I may not lose the jobs, I may not use the life, right? So that confidence, even a country level, your organization level have. So that is how structuring is that level, so that how we can fight against the corruptions. One of the good mechanism, whistleblowing system. Is there, the bribery corruption, there are hotlines and all, that is how they link these things to their program, and then anyone can inform to their. So likewise, even not like some other channel of communications, you can reach even organization also. Your organization have whistleblowing policy, so you can reach without disclosing you as an anonymous, you can disclose, right? So there are channel of way, emails and all hotlines there, even organization level, but this is corruption is the country level. So and also there are like kind of channels. Shall we move to the next slide? Offence under the Anti-Corruption Act. Core bribery offence, offering, what are the core bribery offence? Offering, giving, soliciting, accepting gratification to influence the duty and decisions, right? Your decision and decision. You have some positions, you can't position decisions to base on this, right? So that's why corruption offence, abuse of position and power, that I already explained about this. You are in a position, sometimes your positions you can't misuse, right? You can't misuse your positions. So then corrupt procurement and decision making, then tender and contract created offence. That's why bribery to withdraw the tenders, you can some kind pressure, there are 3-4 quotations, there are suppliers, some person can influence to withdraw them, so then some other person, there automatically is one person to domain that channel throughout the tender process. Bribery for assistance, influence in the government contracts, right? That is one of the hot government contracts, any part of the world. So this is like this. So they are high risk in terms of the anti-corruption perspective. So shall we move to the next slide? Asset liability plus related offence, right? Asset liability declaration offence. Failure, refuse to declare, false and misleading declarations, right? One of the offence. And counsel non-disclosures, illegal access, manipulation of the electronic declaration systems. So those are the area, the asset liability declaration offence. Then related connected offence, right? Protect investigations, obstruct of commissions, failure to comply with the lawful directions, information request. If you are asked for the information, you fail to provide the relevant informations, right? So that is also offence, right? Interference with the investigations and witnesses. You can't influence, right, to the investigation officers and witnesses. Shall we move to the next slide? Governance role, board versus compliance officers. That is why how we interconnected this Anti-Corruption Act. There are key terms and there are key areas we will discuss, and then how this bring into the governance role. Board, compliance officers, board of directors, set anti-corruption policy, code of conduct, established tone at the top. I say board where, tone at the top there, right? Set anti-corruption policies, code of conduct, established tone at the top. And then oversee the internal control, risk mitigations, right? Procurement, approvals, like approve the risk-based due diligence for high-risk partners, transactions. So that is one of the board role, board of directors roles. The compliance officer, implement the frameworks, conduct trainings, awareness sessions, perform the risk assessment, audit, report incidents. So board and compliance officer responsible is much broader to fight against the corruptions. Shall we move to the next slide? Key corporate governance measures. So what are the key corporate governance measures? So policies and procedures, anti-corruption policies, and how to give hospitality registers, right? COI declarations. So that policy procedures, one of the key role play. Board should have approved, and then the management should implement these policy procedure in your organization, and all the people should have aware about these policies and procedures. And whistleblowing mechanisms, hotline, protections against relations. That is why whistleblowing policy key role play in your organizations. So do whistleblowers to whistleblower policy, sometimes if you approved the committee, and so you can box file keep, and when authority or someone came you can show. So this is not the objective, right? The policy should awareness is more critical, right? How organizations, ground level, your policies should aware, that is most critical, your organization. That is important. That there may be channel hotline, that I say email and all, there should have mechanism to reporting mechanisms. Protect again the reporting, even the award, whistleblowing reporting, you can award the employees, right? With this, without disclosing, you can award. Because people reporting also without disclosing, then you can, without disclosing to others, you can award that person. Monitoring and reporting, internal audit focus, periodic compliance reporting to the board. Monitoring function. Internal auditors, there is a role to effectiveness and efficiency of the your risk management in terms of the anti-corruptions, right? You have to fight against corruption, how the anti-corruption policy procedures, timely update and their review, and then how it's applied and how its groundwork. Then awareness of the people. If the audit, if you are a finance company, audit team visit to the branch. They should ask questions. They can check awareness of the people, staff members of the finance company. So likewise, so that they can selected areas, high areas, even contracts, so you work with the government. So inter-allied function, so can check this contract, how it's work during that contract getting period, how its organization working with the government, how in line with the company approved policy procedure. So likewise, selected areas, inter-allied can do the audit and report into the board audit committee as well as the management. So there are improvements inter-allied department can suggest. Due diligence, third parties, mergers and acquisition, agents and contracts, risk base. You can do the due diligence based on the risk base. Shall we move to the next slide? Penalties and strategic governance implications. Penalties, individuals, fines, imprisonment, both, and corporate, heavy fines, fines. Right, they are the reputational damage, indirect liabilities, failure to prevent the corruption may expose to directors, management, right. So they are personal liabilities. Strategic governance impact, strength, stakeholder trust, there is a governance impact. If you are effectively managing then corruptions, you are well defined policy procedure and effective managing this risk in terms of the corruption, strengthen the stakeholder trust, reduce really legal, financial the risks, and then the reputational risks. So then reputational risks, financials, legals, the reduce, right. Then embeds ethical culture, support the enterprise risk management. Let us say this is all part of the your ERM, embedded to the your ERM under the compliance, strategic risk, operational risk, compliance risk. So this is anti-corruption also under this. So which is part of the ERM, enterprise risk management. What is your subject? Advanced risk management and corporate governance. How this link interconnected to the whole in your subject. Right, thank you. So thank you for watching this video. We will meet up another lesson.